Railroads University is on the traditional lands of the Lackawanna and Cosapson families, known as the Sunhi and Esquimalt nations and families. This statement means that at Railroads, we recognize the importance of Indigenous and non-Indigenous people relationship coming together as we continue to learn and understand the history, present, and future scope of Indigenous people. If you know the Indigenous land that you're joining us from today, please feel free to introduce it in the chat. I see that we have more people joining. I'll just let them in. Thank you. And hopefully today everybody's in the good room to start with. So we are here to talk about the MA and Master of Science in Environment and Management. My name is Nancy and I'm an education specialist at Railroads. And I'm very pleased to be joined by Chris Ling, the program head of the MEM program that we call here. Chris,
Hi, everyone.
would you like? Yes, thank you. You can introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm a program head for the what we call the blended version of the MEM program here at Royal Roads, which is the program that starts in September each year and has a combination of on-campus and online courses. And yeah, looking forward to hopefully answering some of your questions about the program today. And if you've already registered for this fall's intake, I will be looking forward to meeting you virtually in September and face-to-face on campus in October.
Wonderful. September is right around the corner. It's unbelievable. So the agenda for today, so we do a round of welcome and introduction as we're doing now. So I'll be talking about the Railroad experience. Chris will be introducing the program. Then we'll talk about application and admission, and we'll welcome your question at the end, or you can always post them in the chat. We're lucky today we have Carla from the enrollment team with us. So Carla will kind of post a few links. We'll share those links with you with the recording after the meeting. And here, why railroads? That might be the question you have. So a few bullets point for you here. We see life as qualification. So when we opened our door in 1995, it was really with the purpose of doing things differently. And we still remain open for those of you who have that entrepreneurial spirit that wants to change the world and create like a better world and where we all live in. So it's really with that in mind that the university was created. We see what you have done in the past, your work, volunteer experience as really part of who you are and what you can bring into the program. Second bullet, prof who know your name. I think that's an important one. So at Railroads, you won't be just a number like bigger institution. We really get to know you from the admission process to the end of your program, and your prof become really kind of your colleagues, so you can learn together and teach each other many things. Learning based on life. So as I share a little bit, we know that your experiences really shape your education. So we are a university for working professionals, which means that the people in your cohort will be people that you might have worked with, that you might work with in the future. And it's really an applied learning. So what you experience at work, you can bring it to the classroom and you can discuss it with your teammate and with your professor. So it really creates a unique experience. Connection for life, as I mentioned, you will meet people here that you might stay in touch via LinkedIn or via other events. And we have an amazing network of grads from Railroad everywhere in the world. So that's one of the power that we have here, I would say, at Railroads. And we were built differently. So since day one, 1995 again, we were built to do online university, online learning and teaching. So it's really different of like some institution maybe that had to pivot with COVID. We have been doing online learning for 25 years. And I know that Chris will share more about what we do and how we do it. And we are a changemaker campus. Just a few institutions in Canada have that accreditation. So feel free to go online and check that out. But it's really about like being a leader, being entrepreneurial, and really trying to act for the good of all. So that's a very nice accreditation for us, and we're very proud of it. Chris was mentioning, we are here to discuss the blended version of the program, which means you'll be mostly online and coming to campus for a few weeks. So I'll just take a few moments here to introduce the campus. On the top left, you see Hatley Castle, which I think is the most iconic building that we have on campus. So the castle was built in 1908, and now we use it. Some offices are there. You can have classrooms, events over there. We do tours and weddings. So it's very beautiful. Many movies have been filmed there if you want to check that on internet later on. On the top right, I have the Japanese garden. We have 565 acres of land at Royal Roads. So you're really welcome to just come with your family, friends, colleagues, and walk around the trails. At the bottom left, you have the Esquimalt Lagoon, which is a bird sanctuary. It's right, the campus is facing the lagoon, so it's very beautiful, again, to go for a walk and observe the wildlife. And on the top, bottom right, I should say, online learning. So we know how it is to go back to school and be in that online environment as we are today. And I will pass it to Chris for the program overview.
Yeah, thank you, Nancy. And so I'm going to just talk a little bit about the MEM program, the curriculum, how it's structured, and how it all fits together. Just happy to entertain questions if you want to post them in the chat. If you have any questions about what Nancy's already said or aspects of the program as we go through it, don't worry about sort of interrupting or anything like that. Just post those messages in the chat, and we can address them as we go along. Okay, Nancy, if we go to the next slide. Yeah, so as Nancy has mentioned, we're talking about primarily the blended version of the MEM program. We also have an entirely on-campus version of the MEM program. So if you're here seeking information about that one, I can probably answer your question. I won't guarantee I'm going to be able to answer your question. I'm the program head for the blended version, which means that we have three residencies during the course of your time in the program. They take place for the first 3 weeks of October each year, so you'll be coming to campus for those. The final one, the third one, is only 2 weeks, but it's at the same time. It starts a week later. The rest of the course curriculum delivery is online, and so that will be usually through an asynchronous method of delivery. So you don't have to attend Zoom classrooms at any particular time. Many instructors will have those, but there's no they're not obligatory to attend those, and they'll be recorded if you want to follow up later. So it's very much designed around people who need to carve time for their education at a time that suits them during the day. And so coming to campus for those 3 weeks is a really valuable time to disconnect from all the other demands on your life and come and really focus on that educational component. And so they are very intense but very rewarding periods of time during the program. We can move to the next slide, please, Nancy. And maybe just go to the next one. All right, so who is on the MEM program? And Nancy's alluded to the fact that everybody that joins MEM is already a professional in some capacity. Mostly they're your people who are already working in the environmental field. But wish to do a master's to enhance their career further. Some folks that come to the MEM program are actually wanting to transition into the environmental field. And just as an example there, we've had people who are working for, in industrial companies or banking or something like that, and are increasing their duties in their day-to-day life are increasingly focused around things like sustainability or environmental questions of varying different types. And so we get quite a few of those sort of people who are wanting to know more about this sort of new area that their career is transitioning into. Everybody is, of course, however, very interested in environmental issues and questions, and so that's why they're coming to do the program. Whether that's been through an undergraduate degree in a environmental discipline, or whether it's because they haven't had the opportunity to get education in this area in the past and are coming to need that through, as I said, sort of changing work and career paths. Our colleagues at Eco Canada, the Canada's professional organization for environmental careers, have pointed out on a number of occasions to us, you know, it's increasingly every career possible has an environmental component within it. So there's lots of opportunity in whatever career path you're seeking to do to enhance your prospects through environmental education. So we have this blended structure. The formal part of the program is 26 months and consists of 36 academic credits, consisting of online and courses and on-campus residencies. So the courses that take place in the residencies, they start and finish online, and you come to campus for that intense 3-week period. So each of those periods has 2 courses running concurrently. And then the third residency, the 2-week residency, is a single course, and then entirely online through the program, you have to take another 3 or 4 courses, 1 or 2 of which are electives from a number of elective options that we have. And how many electives you take very much depends on whether you choose to take a major project pathway to completion or a research thesis to completion. The thesis is worth more credits than the major project. So if you take a major project, you have to take an additional course. It's just the major project doesn't require the same amount of academic endeavor to complete. It's more practical and applied orientation in nature. Okay, if we could move on. Yeah. So just in case there are people here interested in the on-campus program, and in fact, maybe if people would like to post in the chat which one you're predominantly interested in. Are you interested in the blended version or the on-campus program? Are you interested in the MA or the MSc? That would be quite interesting to know, and just let us know who we've got on the call today. So the on-campus program is shorter in terms of the time taken. It has a very similar curriculum. There are a couple of courses which would be electives in the blended version, but are compulsory in the on-campus program because we don't have so many on-campus courses to choose from. It's geared towards international students, although you can certainly come if you're a domestic student as well. There's no bar to that, but it's really for people who are traveling to Canada from elsewhere. It's has a more limited capacity than the blended version, and I believe, as it says here, that it's full for March next year. So if you want to do that, then you'll have to go on a waiting list. So we've got a few people. So some people in the chat are saying they're interested in the blended version, some people in the on-campus. So hopefully I can provide you the information we have. And we have mostly a good mix of MSCs and MAs, and you'll find in the classroom, because everybody on the MA and the MSc is together in the classroom certainly for all the residency times. Your electives are different, and the expectation is that the topics you'll cover in your research capstone will be different as well, of course, depending on your perspective. But there's usually a few more MSc students than MA students, but it's roughly, it's sort of not far off 50-50 quite often. So it's and that richness of interdisciplinarity is very much part of the learning experience. So the slide we have up now is a list of the elective oh, sorry, yes, no, it's not. So it's the list on the left hand side are the core courses for the blended version of the MEM program. And the courses on the right-hand side are for the on-campus courses. If it looks like there's more courses in the on-campus, is that because there's no electives in that? That's a fixed curriculum. And so the courses that are missing from the list on the left-hand side, they are likely available as electives to you if you're doing particularly the blended MA stream. Just to sort of give you, oh, sorry, can we just jump back? Thanks, Nancy. Just to give you sort of way it works. The first two courses are what you take, the sustainability science and systems methods are the courses you take in the first residency in the fall. Then you do research and analysis, which is an online course that we take in the winter in preparation for your major project or thesis. Then reconciliation and governance is in the second residency, and then learning in a living lab is the final 2-week residency at the end of the program. And then there are additional online courses that you take for electives, which you can find out some of the options for those if you go onto the website. So someone there is asking, is there any vacancy for winter 2023? Well, the two intakes are for the blended in September, where that's now where the applications have finished for this year, but for September 2023, they're very much open. And the March on-campus intake, if that's what you're referring to, is full, but they are will be taking a wait list for March, and then of course you can apply for the following year as well. And then Chukwaka, I hope I pronounced your name correctly there, but you ask, I graduated in 2008. How does this affect me in my application? The date is immaterial, provided you've got the necessary grades on average, then the age of that qualification is not important. However, if it's been a long time since you've been in a academic environment, you may wish to explore some of the Royal Roads has some online courses it offers as general studies that maybe you could, like a academic writing and critical thinking course that we often encourage people to think about taking as preparation for coming back to school. But in terms of the application, it doesn't matter. Wang Hu says, is the on-campus already full? Yeah, I believe it is. I say I'm not program head for that program, but I believe that is full. So there will be a waiting list at this point. Do we offer PLAR for courses if we've completed a master's elsewhere? That is theoretically possible. It's very rare that anyone has used that process, so I don't know an enormous amount about it myself, but certainly if you speak to our admissions advisors, they hopefully will be able to help you with that question. It is something that's a possibility, but the actual process and such like is unclear to me. Yeah, so as Nancy's stated in response to Wang's question, you can certainly get in touch. Yes, so just to sort of talk a little bit more about the difference between the thesis and the major project. As I mentioned, the thesis is worth more credits. That's to recognize that it has a higher academic component. Some people do think that it means that the major project will be easier. That's not the case. It's just a recognition of the academic content of those two capstone pathways. What the thesis is a pretty sort of a fairly traditional university style research process where you identify a problem and you analyze existing research and collect data relevant to the question, and then analyze that and then conclude and recommend at the end. A major project is usually where you have some tangible and specific challenge, either through your work or through another organization or a community or somewhat, that you're actually working on, and then the submissible materials for the assessment are going to be some sort of report tracking that process. So it's not necessarily research in the sense that you don't need to read a whole bunch of academic journal articles to identify what the gap in knowledge is and construct a question around that, which is what a master's thesis is. It's more about sort of like working on the implementation of existing knowledge to improve a situation that you are aware of and have identified. We offer a lot of support and guidance as you try and make those decisions about which pathway you want to take, particularly during our first residency and then the research and analysis course you take online in the winter. There's no requirement to have a thesis idea ready to go before you come to the program. There's no requirement to have a supervisor lined up or anything like that. If you have some ideas, that's great, and you can certainly talk to people once you're a registered student about those, but it's not a condition of entry or a requirement of entry. There's a couple more questions have popped up. So Isha said, is it advisable to opt for this program even if we don't have a lot of practical experience right after receiving our bachelor's? So Isha, there is a requirement for work experience in our admissions requirements. So if you have no work experience, you would not be admissible currently to the master's program. However, what we call experience doesn't have to be like working for 2 years in a job. It could also be things you've done as a volunteer, or work that you've done sort of while you've been studying for your bachelor's and things like that. We sort of add up all the bits and pieces to make an assessment of you having a suitable amount of experience. So if you've literally done nothing at all other than sort of studied for your bachelor's, it's unlikely you'll have the experience. But if you've been doing consistently throughout your undergraduate time and since then, volunteer work and such like, then it's certainly worth having a conversation with our admissions advisors to see if you might be ready to come to the master's program. But it is geared towards people who have a bit of life experience, not who've just gone straight from school to undergraduate and then into a graduate program.
Wonderful. And I think, Chris, we have another question from Laura. And I just want to mention that, we'll jump into the admission and application process. And I see that people start asking questions about their personal application. And I don't think we'll be able during the webinar to answer everyone. But please make sure that if you apply already, someone will follow up with you ASAP. So don't worry about it. I don't think it's Chris and I, but thanks for asking those questions in the chat.
Okay, and Laura's question is about postgraduate work permit. You'll have to talk to our international advisors about that, because I do not know.
We're not sure. Maybe we'll see if Carla has more info. But again, Isha, we can follow up. No, Laura, we can follow up with you for sure. I really like what you were sharing, Chris, about the thesis versus a project. Would you say that 50-50 of the students do that, like 50 thesis or 50 project? Or
I think it's probably a little bit more on the thesis side, us, just because often the master's project requires a little bit more in the way of transactional and logistical costs, because you're working on something real usually, as opposed to something which could easily be real as well, but is more sort of hands-off, perhaps. It can be quite challenging to arrange the necessary context for a major project. So, for example, we have one student who's working on the implementation of waste management processes in the municipality for which they work. So that's something that was an ongoing project that they were already engaged with, and they're utilizing that opportunity for their major project. But we've also had people that started off thinking they wanted to do a major project and just were too challenged in finding a suitable project for them to work or create or organization to partner with, and shifted to answering a very similar question, but as a thesis. So it's, they have to do more data collection, they have to read more academic work to support what they're doing, but they're not necessarily engaged in something that's ongoing on the ground, because the timeline for an organization might not be the same as the timeline for your studies. Yeah. So that's why I'm saying, a lot of people think they're going to do a major project because they think of it as an easier option, but rather it's the less academic and more practical option, but it can still be, it's still supposed to be a significant challenge.
Wonderful. And I think a question I saw in an individual chat that we get often is like, how many hours will someone in a blended option work on the master every week, and what is the difference between the commitment when you're online and when you're on campus?
That's a really good question. So Royal Roads has a sort of rule of thumb that says 1 credit is worth around 33 hours of student effort. So a typical 3-credit course will involve approximately 99 or just rounded up to 100 hours of student effort, and a major research project will be, around 300 hours of effort, but that doesn't necessarily include some of the sort of the setup stuff that's not really part of the assessment process. And then a master's thesis would be a little bit, would be another sort of 30 hours on top of that. Now, that's obviously, and that's independent of whether a course is delivered on campus or face-to-face or a mixture of the two. Now, of course, how that time is distributed can be very variable. So for the residency courses, you have, while you're on campus for 3 weeks, you'll be doing the 2 courses, and you'll be in the classroom or in, engaged in the formal part of your learning with your instructors for pretty much the whole 5 days a week, from 8:30 to 4:30. With some additional sort of extra stuff outside that timing. So we have sort of team supports and things like that that can take place at the weekend. So when you're here for the residency, it's like a retreat. You're really, very much focused on the work. But there are some times online before and after, but that won't be nearly as intense. So although there'll be, for each course, there'll be roughly 100 hours of student effort, that'll be focused within the context of the residency. Now, for an online course that's entirely online, as I mentioned, by and large, they don't involve any kind of real-time stuff. It's all you can take your time at your own pace. So most of those are 10 weeks long. So you're splitting 100 hours into 10 weeks. So it's approximately 10 hours a week. And you'll be doing just, by and large, 1 course at a time, although you can, depending on the electives you choose, do 2 at once. So for most people, that means they'll be working, maybe a couple of hours in the evening, 5 days a week, or they'll set aside 1 day a week to focus and do everything in there. So, that's the kind of commitment that you'll be looking at. And of course, some people are very swift workers, and some people take a little bit more time to do the same stuff. So that was going to affect the precise answer to that question as well.
Wonderful, thank you.
And then there's a question here from Freddie about the difference between a Master of Arts and a Master of Science. And really, there isn't a lot of difference. The elective courses that you do, the 1 or 2 elective courses, will be different courses. And the subject that you choose for your thesis or your major project will be different. Obviously, if you're doing a Master of Arts, you'll be choosing, something that involves, social science research methods or humanities research methods. If you're doing an MSc, you should be doing something that involves scientific research methods. But other than that, the programs are the same. The students are in class together. The curriculum is the same. It's just the qualification you get at the end. And so part of the reason we have different admission requirements for the MA and the MSc is because, you know, in order to qualify for an MSc, you at least need to have the basic scientific training that would be represented by an undergraduate Bachelor of Science degree, for example. So, but in terms of your experience as a student, they'll be more or less the same. So I hope that answers your question there, Freddie. Should we move to the next slide, Nancy?
Yes.
Okay, back to
I'll
you
take
then.
over. Thank you so much.
But feel free to carry on asking questions in the chat if you have any about the course, the program itself.
I agree. It's very exciting to see people being interested in 2023 or 2024 programs. So let's check how you can apply. Some of you have already applied, so you have been there. So at Railroads, we have two types of admission, and this is not something you need to check when you apply online. You don't need to decide if it's flexible or standard. That will be really our team that will be doing so. So standard admission, and as it's written here, you need 4 years of an undergrad or comparable degree in a related field with a minimum GPA of B, which is about 3, from a recognized post-secondary institution. On top of this, we ask for at least 2 years of relevant work or volunteer experience, which answer a question we had before. And the applicants who meet the degree requirement but not the GPA will have to take the academic writing and critical thinking class that we offer here at Railroads quite a few times per year, and you will need to obtain a grade of B, 73%. If you're looking at doing the Master of Science stream, then we ask you to have a degree that is science focused. And coming back to the academic writing and critical thinking, I did that class before joining the master I'm doing right now, and it's very helpful just to go back if you have been away from school for a little while, just to go back to writing and APA citation and stuff like that. So that's really setting you up for success for your program. And then if you don't qualify for the standard admission, our team will check if you can be a flexible admission. So flexible, we ask 6 years of relevant work experience or the equivalent combination of education and experience. And all flexible admission applicants will go through the course I mentioned, academic writing and critical thinking, same requirement to pass the class with 73%. We assess on a case-by-case basis, and you need, again, if you want to be the Master of Science, a science-focused undergrad degree. How to apply? You will simply go to the website, railroads.ca. You'll go to admission, apply, and you will see there's only 10 steps to do to get prepared to apply for your next step, your next program. You will pay online a fee of $131.39, and then you will get a number which will allow you to email us most of the documents. So we ask of you the official transcripts, which mean you will have to connect with all other post-secondary institutions and ask them to send the transcript to us via email or mail. We will ask of you a detailed resume where it's really your time to show us all the work experience, school experience, and volunteer experience you had in your life. You will write as well a personal statement. That was one of my favorite things to do when I apply, because you really have to reflect of kind of your past experience and the why you want to be in the program. And this is kind of a selling, I would say, process, because you want to show Railroad admission team that you are a good fit for the program. So you really let us know where you're coming from, what are your experiences, and maybe what are your next aspiration as well. If, for example, in your past school's experience, you had less good grades, like I don't want to say worse or bad grades, but if you had like a few maybe classes that didn't go well, that will be an amazing time in the personal statement to just let us know why, what happened in your life and what you have done maybe to overcome those challenges. And 2 letters of reference. So you will connect hopefully with someone in the professional work and academic world to write a letter of reference for you. You can even send them your personal statement so they can review what you're trying to achieve at Railroads, and then they will send a letter of reference to our admission team. And all those steps, everything I'm mentioning right now is on the website. It's super clear per program what you need to submit. I see that a few folks joining us today are from the abroad, Canada. So you can send us as well a copy of your permanent resident card, a transcript evaluation fee, and an official English language proficiency score report if you need one. But our team will guide you through all those steps. Do you have anything to add to this, Chris?
Yeah, a couple of points. One is when we ask for a detailed resume, it's really important that you make it as detailed as possible, especially if you're coming in as flexible assessment. As I mentioned, sort of it all adds up, all sort of any relevant volunteer experience you've had and things like that. And if you just give us the sort of the bare bones resume, it's possible there won't be sufficient information for us to make a sort of positive assessment on your suitability for the program, because what we're assessing is not simply whether or not you tick all the boxes. We want to make sure that it's a good fit for you, so that you're going to succeed when you come. And the personal statement, as Nancy mentioned, it is important to help us understand you. If there's things that you want to tell us about which might not be clear even in the detailed resume. And also just to point out, sometimes we use it to, if you're a borderline candidate, we want to see the quality of your writing. So do take care over that, because it can add to the overall body of information that we use. And while I'm talking, I do have a question that's come up in the chat, which is, does the thesis require people to be on campus? And absolutely not. You can ask a question and work on research wherever you are in the world. We've had folks doing theses in places as far-flung as Ghana, Hong Kong, Costa Rica, all sorts of different places. So yeah, absolutely, you can do it wherever you like. You don't have to be on campus.
Very exciting. Thank you so much. And I'll move to the next slide. So upcoming intakes, as you mentioned, Chris, September 6th is quite too close maybe for people to apply. I know what we have done with other programs is, if all your documents are ready and you really want to apply for, it's in 2 months, what you can do is you go online, complete your application, and then you will have to select September 2023, because September 2022 won't be available on the online form. But then you can email the admission team and request to be in the 2022 cohort. We can't promise anything, but we never know. Maybe there's room, maybe they will let you in. So this is a try you can do. And if you're not accepted in the 2022, then you have a year to get prepared, organize your life, your work, and balance everything out to be ready for 2023. As we mentioned, thank you, Carla, in the chat, for March 2023. There's a lot of people already in the program, so we'll see if it's full. We'll find out for you folks. But if you're looking to come on campus, you can already apply for 2024. So I hope I mentioned it before, but at Railroads, you don't have to wait for the deadline to apply. You can apply today for any intakes that is available on the website. So we will let you know as soon as we can when you're being accepted. I know we're looking at a few weeks for domestic students to get their application process. And when you're coming from international, there are more steps, so that can take a few months. So please just be prepared depending on where you're joining from today, just to give yourself a bit more time to get to the next intake you would like.
Yeah, just to follow up on a couple of those points. Yeah, absolutely. If you want to come and join us, just get that application in, because as we've seen, intakes do fill up, and because it's a first come first serve process. So if it fills up before the deadline, it's filled up before the deadline. If you do want to come to the on-campus March 2023, even though that's full, there is a real waiting list. We do often get people who, for various reasons, can't attend. So it is certainly possible that you can be on the waiting list and get them. I don't know how long the waiting list is, or if that's a real hope, but certainly, I can guarantee there'll be people on the waiting list currently who will be joining us in March. And as Nancy said, we can accept people into programs right up until the date they start. Although, obviously, if you're only just applying for September now, it's going to be challenging for you to get that process done in time. So that's the real reason for the deadline. It's to ensure that people aren't disappointed because they haven't got time to get all the bits and pieces together. But if you can get all the bits and pieces together and there is still space, you can be admitted to the September still. So it's just have a conversation with our admission advisors, and they'll be able to sort of give you the details on all those various different possibilities. And there's a couple of other
Yeah, I
questions.
see a question here about, can I be considered for a master in environment and management since I have a background in a different field?
Yeah, so yes is the quick answer there. We don't have your name, I'm afraid. I assume that's just your phone make. But what we're looking for, if you don't have a relevant subject in your degree, is evidence that you have an interest in the subject matter and have got some kind of understanding of it. Now, that could be courses that you've taken as part of that degree. It could be projects you've had to do at work that are relevant to the master's program, or the sort of interest in your sort of non-professional life. So we get a lot of people, for example, with backgrounds in business, as you have, who've also done extensive volunteering in whatever, in local environmental groups and things like that. So I can't categorically say you can or you will or you will not be eligible for admission, but certainly we have had plenty of people with business backgrounds that have come into the master's program very successfully. But we are going to be looking for those that evidence of your interest in the topic area and some experience, whether that's volunteer or otherwise, in environmental questions.
And I think we have another question here from Na that is a bit related. The percentage of students that are international in the program, and I know it varies from the blended to the on-campus.
Yeah, so the on-campus program, I say we've just had one intake there, and so we don't have a huge number of years of data to work from, and it is geared towards international students, and so we had. Gosh, I can't remember. There was I think something like 35 students, and they came from 18 different countries, and there was one domestic student. So that gives you an indication of the diversity in the internet in the on-campus program. In the blended version, it's predominantly domestic students, but there's always like a handful of international students from various places. In terms of percentage, I would say it varies quite a lot, but maybe sort of 10, 15, 20% is kind of the range that we see.
Great. And I think the second question from now was, what are some degrees considered as relevant degrees for the programs?
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure we have example on the website, but do you have? Yeah.
I mean, obviously, any kind of form of environmental science or environmental studies, any kind of, on the science side, any kind of natural science type of degrees. So, chemistry, biology, environmental technical degrees, things like geography, geology, a variety of social studies that incorporate environmental courses. I mean, it's more important what courses you took as part of the degree than the name of the degree itself. So as I was sort of answering to the person who had a bachelor's degree in business studies, some business studies degrees contain sort of sustainable business, sort of green tourism kind of courses, which of course would be indicative of relevance. Others don't. So, it's hard to say definitively whether or not just from the name of a degree, it would be relevant. But we have a very kind of broad perspective on what is relevant. So, probably, I mean, if it contains some kind of sort of anything to do with sustainability or environmental issues or such things, then it would be a good sign that it was relevant.
Would be a good fit. Wonderful. And I encourage everyone to connect with the enrollment team. That will be my next slide, but you can join a live call with them, a Zoom call. You can really get more information on all the programs we offer and what they lead you to and what you need as requirements. So we don't leave you alone in that process. You can get some support from us. And as we wrap up the session, so financial aid, we know it's an important component of going back to school. So please take a picture or print screen of that slide here and visit royalroads.ca/admission/financial aid awards, because you will get all the information about internal and external loans and grants and everything you can get to help you go back to school. And again, the more in advance you are, the better you can be prepared to apply for those different loans that you can get or grants. And the team over there is amazing. Same thing for the enrollment team. Thanks to Carla that was with us today, posting a bunch of links. Those links will be shared with you in the recording. And you can always email learn.more@royalroads.ca. You have the phone number here. You have as well the learn.more.international@royalroads.ca. And if you have questions now and you want to chat with one of us, you can always just scan the WhatsApp and send us a message on that platform here. And
just to sort of encourage everybody, if you do have questions, do use the sort of the general email rather than spending time trying to identify who the right person is on the website, because if you do use the general email, it will go to the right person. Whereas if you try and pick somebody and send them an email, it's not certain they'll have the answer.
That's a very good point. And there's a lot of collaboration between teams here. So Learn That More will really be the kind of the main contact for you, and then they will just send your email to someone else if needs be.
Yeah.
So thank you, everyone.
There's just a question there from Cindy saying, I'm from Nigeria and have work and volunteer experience. Undergraduate GPA in microbiology is very poor. And my MPH GPA is 3.3. So I'm not sure what is that, Master of Public Health. But anyway, if you've got all that experience, then even if your GPA is not necessarily high enough for our admission requirements, then you'll be treated under flexible assessment on a case-by-case basis. So, just explain to us what that volunteer experience and work is. And, if you're applying for the on-campus program, then it'll be my colleague, Tony Boydell, who will be assessing your flexible assessment application. So, I would certainly encourage you to apply. It looks like you're a pretty strong candidate to me, but I can't obviously give you any real assessment at this stage.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you, everyone, for participating in the chat and being here with us. Thank you, Carla. Thank you, everyone from Royal Roads. And we'll send you the recording link today or tomorrow as soon as we can. Have a wonderful day, and we hope to see you on campus or online soon.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.